Greetings from Horizon Properties team, and welcome to this evening's Property Focus program. We continue to with our topical issue of the relationship between landlord and the tenant of a dwelling house. Last time we looked at two issues. One, rent and the number of months to pay in advance, and also the notice to give vacant possession of a dwelling house. This evening, I would like to answer some questions from the listeners. They may be within the topic, and some of them will not be within the topic of our topic. Question number one, it reads: my land has been invaded by squatters who are living there, while some are still constructing despite court injunction. Please advise, what should I do? Dear listener, disobeying a court injunction is contempt of court, and you need to enforce the injunction. Let your legal team or legal representative pursue to enforce the injunction. They may contact law enforcers to enforce the injunction, because that's contempt. Another question is there any legal provision that protects the rights of property owners to enjoy their property? I feel deprived by my neighbor's fumes from the poultry house. I draw your attention to the nuisance law. A nuisance arises when the neighboring property owner is acting in a manner that can be described as a nuisance. An act that is harmful or offensive to the public or a member of it, and which there is a legal remedy. Please take note there are two types of nuisance suits. These are private and public nuisance actions. A private nuisance means there has been a loss of the use or enjoyment of the property without an actual physical invasion of the property. An action for a physical invasion of the property, that is now trespass. It's a trespass action, criminal trespass. Public nuisance is one that has more of reaching effects. It has the ability to affect the health, safety, welfare, or comfort of the public in general. So therefore, there are laws which govern, which protect the rights of property owners to enjoy their property. The acts which can remedy this, we have the Local Government Street and Vending Nuisance Act Amendment Regulation 2018. These regulations prohibit the spitting, vomiting, throwing litter, urinating in unauthorized places, singing obscene song, or saying obscene words. So all this amounts to nuisance, and therefore an action must be taken. Also be reminded also the CAP 295, the Public Health Act. So these are pieces of legislation which can remedy and provide and bring back your rights as a property owner. I have another question. This is to do with this is an item which we looked at last time. Is security deposit on rentals law? If not, why should I pay security deposit? This one, I think we dealt with this issue last time, where we said that the number of, in a dwelling house, the number of months to pay in advance, there are 2 months in advance, and there are no other premiums or amount to be paid with regard to rent. However, what we see in practice is that security deposits has become a common practice because of the disparity and the functioning of the Act Cap 206. Because the time it was crafted and enacted, it was also that was in the demand economy, where the price of commodities were controlled and government was a major player in the economy. So with that respect, that act actually is, the main objective is to protect the increase of rentals and the rights of a tenant. It has not protected to some extent, or to a large extent, the landlords. And therefore, because it's not law, but it's common practice. Security deposit is not law, but common practice. So, as I mentioned last time, that this is a piece of legislation, together with Cap 193, the Business Premises Act must be either repealed or seriously amended. So the other question from the listeners, this is also which we covered in our last topic, to do with the conversion of land of customary tenure to leasehold. The question is, can you direct me how I should get the title for my traditional land? The answer here lies in the contents of Cap 184. The Land Act, Section 8, provides for the conversion of customary tenure into leasehold tenure. So these are we discussed this topic, and we guided at length how customary land can be converted to leasehold state land. Briefly, I will go through these steps. They are summarized in 5 steps, although during the time when we were dealing with this issue, we explained extensively. Step 1, apply to the chief for the authority to convert customary land into leasehold. Step 2, apply to the local authorities, the council, in the area where the land is situated for further authority. Number three, submit the approved application to the Commissioner of Lands for an invitation to treat. And when you are given an invitation to treat, an invitation to agreement to go into a lease, when you are invited and pay, and then you're given an offer which you accept, and then you proceed to surveying, and thereafter, if authorized or approved, your application is approved, you get your title. So those are the questions from the listeners that I was obliged to respond to. I want also additionally to remind our listeners the circumstances when you could be evicted from your house. The law provides certain situations where the landlord may evict you. 1, failure to pay rent. Number 2, nuisance or annoyance to the adjoining occupiers. If you become a nuisance, you could be evicted. Or if you are convicted of using the premises for criminal activities, you could be evicted. If there's a notice to sell, if the property is going to be sold, you could be notified to leave the premises. subletting in excess of the agreed rent. If your rent is 10,000 and you are subletting 15,000, you could be evicted, because now you are exploiting. You are making business out of someone's property, so you could be evicted. Although subletting is maybe authorized with the consent of the landlord. If you are subletting without consent from the landlord, you could be evicted. If, for example, there is a court order for the landlord to obey obligation of the court, and it means that you need to leave the house, or the house must be sold under certain circumstances. For example, if they have ordered a couple to sell and share the property, the proceeds of the property, then the house, you may be requested to vacate, give vacant possession. Over occupation. If the house is overoccupied, if a two-bedroom house is accommodating, for example, 20, the landlord may notify you to leave the house. So, listeners, this is the information I wanted to deliver to you this evening, as we continue next time to continue with the issues of landlord and tenant ordering house. Before we move to the Business Premises Act, that is Cap 193, we'll conclude most of the issues to do with the dwelling houses and the landlord and tenant next time. We need to exhaust certain aspects of the lease that you need to understand. So next time we'll continue answering questions and also disseminating information.